Greetings, conservatives. This is your humble host, John Moraga, and we are back with more ConservaCast. We look forward to keeping you informed with the latest and most relevant commentary of conservative issues. So without further ado, here are a few topics I'd like to discuss. To begin, Planned Parenthood is attempting to murder babies with disabilities. They have unsurprisingly teamed up with the ACLU to sue the state of Indiana, which has passed legislation that would outlaw selective abortions based on mental or physical disabilities or based on race or gender. Next, the British Parliament has just voted to restrict Prime Minister Theresa May's ability to navigate the UK's finalization of BREXIT by the January 21, 2019 deadline. Still controversial, the Brexit process faces opposition as well as support. The closer it becomes to a reality, the more acceptance it receives. However, there is still enough significant pushback to give Prime Minister May a severe headache for the remainder of 2018. Also, President Trump has announced the formation of another branch of the military, the Space Force. It is unclear if this will become its own department or simply a branch of one of the three current departments of the military, which are the Army, Navy, and Air Force. A bit of trivia. Most civilians are unaware that the Marines are actually a branch of the Department of the Navy, and the Coast Guard are a branch of the Department of Homeland Security. They are all components of the U.S. military, but only the Army, Navy, and Air Force comprise their own respective departments. So, we will have to wait and see if President Trump decides to place the new Space Force under the management of an existing department or create an independent department for it. Finally, I'd like to address the topic of Israel. This is a subject that requires more than one episode to discuss, but I wanted to lay the groundwork for future episodes. I personally consider and evaluate Israel in 10 historical timeframes, 3 main eras, and 7 sub-eras. The 3 main eras are ancient, pre-modern, and modern. The ancient era is essentially the biblical account of Israel, so it's obvious why I would break this down into 4 sub-eras. The pre-modern era, pre-1948, refers to Israel from about the 4th century until the 20th century, and more commonly referred to as the diaspora. I have broken this down into 3 sub-eras. Lastly, I categorize the modern era as the re-establishment of the nation of Israel from 1948 to present. Referring to ancient Israel, I place this era into 3 time frames of the Old Testament and 1 post-Old Testament. They are Adam to Moses, Moses to the establishment of the First Temple of Jerusalem, and from the First Temple to the establishment of the Second Temple. Obviously, there are even more time frames of which these can be broken down, but these provide general reference points. I place the 4th sub-era of ancient Israel from about the 1st century BCE to about the 3rd century CE, which more than covers the events before and after the New Testament. All 12 apostles were Jewish, and the promises of Israel were still observed in the New Testament, but many people believe that Christians, or the Church, have replaced Israel. In fact, replacement theology, otherwise known as supersessionism, is a misapplication of the New Testament, which is still taught today. Unfortunately, this doctrine has led to a lot of anti-Semitism throughout history. The pre-modern era of Israel is what is commonly known as the diaspora. If you are unfamiliar with the term, it refers to the emigration of Jews throughout the globe. There are many places Jews have traveled throughout history, but some regions have been more populated than others. In the Old World, for example, the African continent was the home of Ethiopian Jews. In Asia, Jews were scattered throughout the Middle East. In Europe, Sephardic Jews were heavily influential in the western part of the continent, particularly in Spain, and Ashkenazi Jews were infused into the culture of Eastern Europe. They contributed greatly to the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, and the scientific revolution of the past millennium. In the New World, Jews found refuge from European persecution, at first in Latin America, specifically in Mexico and Argentina, but eventually New York and the rest of the United States became the home of much of world Jewry. Modern Israel, was established in 1948 as a Jewish homeland on the heels of Hitler's failed final solution. However, Israel has a biblical and legal right to the land. In fact, it actually has the rights to an even bigger map than it currently governs. The Palestinians do not have a historical claim to the region, but they have been used as political pawns to perpetuate the lie that Israel is an apartheid state. Thanks for joining us once again, and we hope you will invite your friends and family to join us in our efforts to champion conservatism for generations to come.